Hello there, you're watching RTV News with me, Jane Mutoni. President Paul Kagame has announced that following the deployments Rwandan peacekeepers to the Central African Republic and Mozambique, more could be sent to another two countries. World Health Organization has issued a statement announcing that sleeping sickness has been removed from the list of diseases in Rwanda due to its extinction. A very warm welcome to the news. In details now, President Paul Kagame has announced that following the deployments of Rwandan peacekeepers to the Central African Republic and Mozambique, more could be sent to another two countries. Now, the head of state, who is also the chairman of RPF Inkotanyi Party, made the remarks on Saturday during the party's Congress meeting. Now, let's move on to another story why the team gets a hold of that. Well, World Health Organization has issued a statement announcing that sleeping sickness has been removed from the list of diseases in Rwanda due to its extinction. Now, the Ministry of Health welcomed the statement but urges the public to remain cautious as the disease is still prevalent in neighboring countries. Innocent Mugabo has this report.
In the past, much of the eastern province was made up of forests. In the 1960s, these forests were overgrown with sassaflies that used to hide in the trees and bit both people and animals, hence infecting them with sleeping sickness. Some residents of Bugesera district at the time narrate the severity of the disease. Whoever would get bitten would always feel like sleeping all the time. A bite from a sassafly was very life-threatening. It killed two men, my father's cousin and my brother-in-law. As the eastern province became inhabited, measures were also taken to control the insects as well as treat those who had been bitten, and various measures were taken to ensure that no signs of sleeping sickness disease were still visible in the public. A statement from the World Health Organization states that sleeping sickness is no more in Rwanda, and the organization commends Rwanda's efforts in eradicating the disease. It is in this regard that the disease has been removed from the list of diseases in Rwanda. The acting director for the neglected tropical diseases and other parasitic diseases, Mbonigaba Jean Bosco, sheds a light on how Rwanda managed to achieve this. Some of its symptoms are the same as those of malaria, high fever and headache. But with a lot of effort, the disease has been eliminated, and research has also proved that this is not something we can take for granted because the Ministry of Health has put in a lot of effort to get rid of the disease. Sleeping sickness is only found in Africa, and with Rwanda having eliminated the disease, the Ministry of Health urges Rwandans to continue being cautious. Although the disease has been eliminated in Rwanda, some of our neighboring countries still have it. So people need to remain conscious to avoid it from coming back. On the list of neglected diseases in Rwanda, there are 9 diseases including worm disease, measles and bilharzia among others. The Ministry of Health states that through a partnership between authorities and the people, these can as well be eradicated. Innocent Mugabo, RTV News.
Thank you, Innocent, for that report. Now, people in need of construction materials, especially metal, are complaining that their prices have increased unusually these days. Now, the Ministry of Trade and Industry says that it has taken steps to address the issue. As commercial and residential buildings are continuing to increase in number across the country, so is the dire need of high-quality construction materials. At Gachiriro Gisozi Trading Center here in Kigali City, one can find there all sorts of construction materials. In the hardware stores, construction materials are available in bulk and in all categories. However, buyers say that their prices have hiked.
The prices didn't just rise, they skyrocketed because some prices doubled and others increased ridiculously. Equipment that we used to buy at 9,000 Rwandan francs now costs 23,000 Rwandan francs, and others that used to cost 12,500 Rwandan francs now costs 28,000 Rwandan francs or 30,000.
Those that sell construction materials say that they also face high prices when buying them from wholesalers in bulks. Owners of various construction material industries pointed out that during this period of COVID-19, foreign industries that process the raw materials used to make these metals are not working as well as before.
We have no idea to why prices of wholesalers keep fluctuating or increasing. Just like the government intervened in the issue of hiking food prices and resolved it, it should also address this issue of high prices of metals, because we don't know how these prices come about.
The construction sector accounts for 8% of the country's gross domestic product and provides 10% of the country's total employment. Those involved in job creation say that continuing to support the manufacturing industry of various materials, including construction, is one of the factors that will make these materials more marketable, hence their prices not changing.
It requires people to think outside the box on how they can use Made in Rwanda. By this, we shall find ways of having adequate materials instead of relying on imports.
In a national development program known as Made in Rwanda, the Director General of Industry Promotion and Entrepreneurship Development at Ministry of Trade and Industry, Mulindanhaka Evad, says that industries are continuously supported in terms of increasing their productivity in order to reduce the gap between exports and imports.
The government took some steps to support the industrial sector and attract investors, such as removing taxes on raw materials and taxes on machines used in the industries. All this to reduce the costs of operating and prices on market to be cheaper for the buyer. There are those who take advantage of this and raise prices for their own benefit, yet the resources are available.
According to the Ministry of Trade and Industry, in its work plan for the next 5 years, there will be an increase in the number of construction materials industries and in their productivity, as well as the use of some of the materials available inside the country for construction purposes. Survivors of the genocide against the Tutsi in Bugesera district say that the remembrance of the lives in the Ntarama marshland restores the dignity of those who were robbed of their right to live. This was noted during a memorial service for the victims of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi killed in the marshland. Isabel Masozera reports.
Ngabire Marie Clarice and Kaboyi Benoit, residents of Bugesera district in Ntarama sector, say that after realizing that the Tutsi who fled into churches and those who hid up in the hills were killed, many who had survived the attackers came from different places and sought refuge in Ntarama marshland. But on that day, the 30th of April, many Tutsi were murdered.
Urabona iki gishanga uko giteye.
You see the nature of this swamp and its water level. It is similar to what we had. It was such a blessing because we used it to cross and hide. Now the trees have reduced, but they were taller back then. They helped us to survive. Today we remember this part of our story. It is our history, a promise we have made to those we left behind. We do this to hold them in our hearts and to show them that we care. They agreed to bring in soldiers and killers from across Mugina in Gitarama and asked them to mobilize killers from all other sectors, encouraging them to bring guns and any other tools they had to hand. Some started to shoot, others cut people with machetes, but we were liberated. That's why today is a very important day, because it is the day we lost most of our loved ones. Survivors from Ntarama massacre have hailed RPF Nkotanyi's bravery.
In a nutshell, Nkotanyi's life, like the artist said, they defeated the killers to get everyone out of the swamp. giving them a chance to live. On that day, they rescued people from the swamp.
According to Bugesera Deputy Mayor for Economic Development, Umwari Angelique, the resilient spirit of the people of Bugesera district has paid off, despite atrocities that were committed in that area even before the genocide against the Tutsi began. First and foremost, we are grateful for the brave survivors today. It took courage. Some have grown, others are happy and thriving. Some who were homeless now have houses. Those who suffered physical injuries, we have been able to treat and are still treating them. We are also proud of the fact that before, this was considered a bad district because it was lagging behind. But today, it is seen as a priority district, one that the state prides in and directs its resources to. This gives us hope that our sector is on the right track. The commemoration of the victims of the genocide against the Tutsi killed at Ntarama was also marked by a wreath-laying ceremony in their honor. Isabel Masozera, RTV News.
During the 28th commemoration of the genocide against the Tutsi in the former ISAR Rwanda Center and its affiliates, staff from the Rwanda Agricultural Board were urged to remain united and maintain the Rwandan commitment of being one. Martina Abera reports.
It is in the 28th commemoration of the genocide against the Tutsi in the former Isar Rwanda Center and its affiliates, where decent burials were held of 13 bodies that were found during various activities at the center. We are very happy and we appreciate the works of our leaders, because when one hasn't been able to give their loved one a decent burial, they do not have peace of mind. However, today we have restored some of that peace, even though we haven't found all of them. Those who planned and executed the genocide, if it was up to us, we would have them brought to us. For example, the man who was in charge of Isar, I would really like to see him face to face. He made me sit at the hospital because he said the ultimatum was that he would stop the killings if only I showed my face, if only I could see him one more time. The Rwanda Agricultural Board Rubona Genocide Memorial is the final resting place to more than 180 victims of the genocide against the Tutsi. Permanent Secretary for the Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Resources, Jean-Claude Musabyimana, urges the staff of the center to be united and strong in their Rwandan identity so that the events do not happen again.
Like we all know, our country puts forward the unity and reconciliation agenda, and for all Rwandans to know that we are one. I continue to encourage the staff of Minagri and all its affiliates to continue to maintain the unity and togetherness of being one Rwanda. I also take this time to thank the RPF Inkotanyi soldiers that put to an end the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi and restore the lives of Rwandans who fight for continued unity and prosperity today.
The commemoration also took place in Huye district in Goma sector in memory of the Tutsi who were killed in the former Goma commune, where many Tutsi had taken refuge due to the proximity of the airport to soldiers and gendarmes. The Ibuka president in Huye district, Siboinore Teodat, called on all Rwandans to continue to fight against the perpetrators of the genocidal ideology.
This message is for all Rwandans in general. Our history clearly shows where the genocide left us and how it affected us all. So it is only right that we continue to fight those who want to take us back to that dark past in one way or the other, such as the genocide ideology. I urge us all to continue to stand in solidarity as we shed light to the truth of our dark past.
In Goma sector, 6 bodies were buried, including babies, joining more than 45,000 other victims buried at the Goma Memorial. Martina Avera, RTV News.
Again, let me remind you that President Paul Kagame has announced that following the deployments, Rwanda peacekeepers to the Central African Republic and Mozambique could be sent to another two countries. The head of state, who is also the chairman of the RPF Inkotanyi party, made the remarks on Saturday during the party's Congress meeting. Take a look.
Hundreds of RPF Inkotanyi members attended the Congress, and President Paul Kagame reminded them the time is running out to make good on the promises the party made to Rwandans. The Rwandans who have made us their leaders, putting their trust in us, want their lives to be properly transformed. That is what they want from us. Obviously, as the RPF, we are left with only 2 years to deliver to Rwandans what we agreed them that we would deliver during this mandate that has been going on for some time now, that they elected us to serve in. It is clear, therefore, that we should look at where we have been pertaining to achievements, how far we have come, and the projections for the end of the mandate. We must look at what we achieved and what we did not, as well as why, and then increase our efforts where we found them lacking. The RPF chairman also pointed out that time cannot continue to be wasted on matters that don't seem to be resolved quickly enough.
Why can't you do something and get results? Results is kabura.
Or those results do not materialize and we know why they did not. How can urgent matters remain so for 5 years? By the way, even though we have brought this up here, we could remain like this for another 5. This level of urgency that has been made evident here of 5 years could continue for another 5 years. The issue of cargo and cold rooms. Those are just 2 things among hundreds that I chose as an example. The president also pointed out that Rwandans have no choice but to learn to adapt to situations regardless of how difficult they are. During the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, there was a time our neighbors were refusing to let us test their citizens for the virus, claiming there was no pandemic in their country, resulting in a jam of more than 1,500 cargo trucks stretching for kilometers at the border, carrying things we needed, just because we did not agree on how to handle the pandemic. In the north, we already had an existing problem that even included security matters. In the south, the same. I am bringing this up because we as a country do things in a unique way, and even if you were to try and ignore it, such occurrences will always remind you of that fact. You will be reminded that we have no powerful weapons, and that we are landlocked, surrounded by other countries who can do whatever they want. We can't stop them, and yet we're still affected. Does that mean the country will completely perish and be no more? As a people, we cannot accept that. We must build ourselves up and at the very least meet our basic needs and increase productivity. Certainly we can do that and face whatever challenges come our way. Despite the challenges, Rwanda has overcome, however, and is helping others to do the same. Things are therefore generally going well, be it here within the country or in the places where we have young men and women, your children and relatives, on missions in different countries, in Mozambique, the Central African Republic, and there are 2 more countries that they could be going to. But that all depends on how we see things and do them as a country. Also, it should be noted that doing this is beneficial. You understand that it increases our reach to places like Mozambique, Central Africa, tomorrow Benin, and elsewhere. This is the result of building up our own capacity to be able to help those other countries through cooperation. Next, Congo, Brazzaville, and so on. Instead of running to Europe to get that $100 allowance per month or whatever it is that they give you there, stay here and earn it. It had been more than 2 years since the last RPF Inkotanyi Congress meeting gathered in this way because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and comes less than 2 months before Rwanda hosts the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in June.
Rice farmers in Bugarama Valley in Rusizi district say that rainwater from the hills surrounding the valley is negatively affecting this crop, which results into the low production of rice. They have requested officials in charge to find a sustainable solution. Shislene Mugwaneza has this report.
Rice farmers are concerned with the fact that they will incur low production due to the rainwater that falls from hills located in Gwimbogo and Zahaha, which destroy rice grown on the Bugarama Valley.
The rice got washed away by the rain. It got destroyed. What would help is for the government to find a solution, because if they don't, the rice crop will get really affected and the harvest is low. We used to harvest 6.5 tons of rice on a hectare of land, but I'm not sure if we are getting even 5 tons this time.
According to the farmers, it is not only rice that is negatively affected by the rainwater, but also other crops, and they have a request.
We request the government to help us and reconstruct this pipeline, which will stop water from flowing into our farms and people's neighborhoods.
Rusizi officials have said that there is a long-term plan to solve the problem.
In partnership with residents, we are planning to fight soil erosion on Zahaha and Gwimbogo hills, because that is where water comes from. So we want to dig terraces, plant grass and trees.
The Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Resources has said that during the dry season, a project will be undertaken to properly channel the water torrents. Shislene Mugwaneza, RTV News.
The Rwanda Council of Veterinary Doctors notes that they are looking for solutions to the problem of shortage of veterinaries that continues to be a threat to livestock in the country. While some livestock farmers in Nyagatare district say that some cows died due to lack of medical assistance. This is one of the highlights at the World Veterinary Day, which was celebrated in Nyagatare district at the national level. Olive Nete reports.
In Nyagatare district, statistics shows that one state veterinarian monitors the health of more than 10,000 cows. Some of the livestock farmers in Karangazi sector say they are witnesses to the problem of shortage of veterinarians because it is hard to find medical assistance.
When we look closely, there are still few. I think they are at the sector level and the district level. But it would also be good if there was at least one person who is skilled in livestock farming at the cell level as well. It would be great. There are still few. The government should increase the number because we have cattle and we are also many. As you can see, not all my cows are here. So one veterinarian can move from here to Kanyanje or from Kanyanje to here. So that is to mean that their number is still few.
It is not just farmers who are raising the issue, because even state veterinarians note that they find it difficult to take care of the cattle because of the few number.
It is a great challenge, but I try to talk to my fellow veterinarians, even if it is not that simple. Sometimes you call one and you find that he or she went far, but we try to help them as much as we can.
This is being pointed out while the council receives new veterinarians every year. And to date in the country, there are more than 3,400 of them. Private veterinarians are being criticized for putting a high price different from the price of the ministerial decree of the Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Resources. The private veterinarians explain it in these words.
Our services are not that expensive, but because we are private, we look at the expenses that we use to reach the livestock farmers. That is why they try to call government veterinarians.
While celebrating the World Veterinary Day in Karangazi sector, about 1,000 cows were vaccinated from the Rift Valley fever disease. Dr. Marie-Claire Tumusabe, the Vice President of the Rwanda Council of Veterinary Doctors, notes that they are doing their best to increase the number of veterinarians through schools that teach veterinary courses. To To date, in the Rwanda Council of Veterinary Doctors, we also noticed that veterinarians in the country are still few. But as we know, there are veterinary schools, either at secondary level, universities, or even polytechnic schools. We find this as a solution because when those students graduate, they are the ones that helps residents in various sectors. It is true that every sector has one veterinarian, but there are others called private vet who are private, even though they are not enough as well. But at every end of the year, people come to register as they finish studying and also request licenses. They are deployed in different sectors where they requested to work. Dr. Mukasekuru Mathilde, the Director General of the Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Resources, notes that in order to meet the ministerial decree of the Minister of Agriculture and Animal Resources about prices of the private doctors more understandable, she notes that it will be brought closer to livestock farmers in sectors so that they can understand it more. We advise livestock farmers to find it and read it, and we will bring it closer to the state veterinarians that are in various sectors and districts for them to know its content and share it during discussions with livestock farmers. And sometimes in different activities, the Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Resources give advices to farmers and also to district and sector veterinarians. The Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Resources reminds them that they shouldn't take the shortage of veterinarians as an opportunity to treat cows on their own, because it is as if they are conducting a profession without licenses to do so. Olive Nete, RTV News.
Well, there you have it. On behalf of the entire news production team, thank you so much for your company. I'm Jane Mutoni. Bye for now.